Diglossia is a term referring to a situation of language in use which shows the pattern of code or variety choice. It normally occurs in a bilingual community where a certain code or variety is used for certain situation and another code is appropriately used in another situation. The code is generally identified as low variety and high variety. Low variety is used in everyday interaction and high variety is usually strictly used in a certain occasion, mostly in formal situation. So, diglossia is a relatively stable language situation in which, in addition to the primary dialects of the language, there is a very divergent, highly codified superverse variety. We can find a diglossic situation in the certain community. A diglossic situation exists in a society when it has two distinct codes which show clear functional separation between the high variety and low variety. So, diglossia is the speech community behavior. It's not the individual speech behavior. There are many examples of diglossic communities, such as in Arabic, we have classical high variety and regional or colloquial low variety. In Swiss, we have standard, which is considered as high, and then also Swiss German. In Haitian also, we have standard French, which is considered as a high variety, and Haitian Creole as low variety. Diglossia can be viewed in narrow and broader sense or extended sense. The most important characteristics of diglossic situation is the separations of function. In narrow sense, each variety is used for quite distinct function. High variety and low variety complement each other. It means when in one situation high variety is appropriate, so people may not or must not use the low variety. For example, no one uses the high variety in everyday conversation. Well, while in the extended sense, people may separate the function, but it's not as strict as in the narrow sense. People may use low variety in high variety contexts for some purposes. For example, because great appreciation of the low variety. A good example of this condition is what happens in Paraguay, where people are proud of Guarani. They may use Guarani instead of Spanish in situations where Spanish was appropriate. A community speech behavior may differ from one society to another society. However, normally one situation for high variety can be identified. For example, situation for high variety for formal lecture in parliament or legislative body, political speech, broadcasting news on TV or radio, editorial newspaper, and fun literature, while the situation for low variety is normally found at the situation of giving instruction to workers in low prestige occupation, servants, conversation with familiars, soap opera on radio or television, political cartoon on newspaper, or folk literature. Well, now let's talk about code switching and code mixing. When we are talking about code switching and code mixing, so we have to remember the definition of a code or our understanding about code. Code or variety can be in the form of language. For example, Indonesian, English, Sundanese, and we may switch from Indonesian to English. This is what we call as code switching. But code may also be in the form of varieties of a language, such as dialect. When we are using Indonesian, we may switch from formal form to informal form, for example. Okay, code switching is the process of selecting a particular code to speak and switch from one code to another. It is a useful social skill. As Joel in 1988 explained that code switching is a conversational strategy used to establish, cross, or destroy group boundaries to create, evoke, or change interpersonal relationship within their right and obligation. And code switching is often a subconscious or automatic process following a conversation. The ability to switch from one code to another code is an important skill in communication. Someone may switch the code from formal to informal form when the situation changes, or also maybe from one language to another language. For example, Nai is talking with Fadi in Japanese, but when Eis comes, they switch into Indonesian. The situation changes because of the Ois, a Sundanese friend, presence. Even though they are talking about the same topic, but they use Indonesian to suit with the different situation. This is what is called as situational code switching. Well, there is another type of code switching, which is called metaphorical code switching. In this kind of code switching, we know that topic change requires a change in the language, and code switching for rhetorical reasons, and people use metaphors to represent complex meaning. Metaphorical code switching is very important skill. It helps the speaker delivers the presentation by considering many factors in the speech. Great speaker would perform skillful metaphorical code switching to impress the audience. The speaker may have different motivation of using a certain code. For example, because he is proud of the code as part of his identity. He may switch to show solidarity. For example, a manager may use the workers' code to show the solidarity, even though in normal speaking at work, a manager could use the code of his level. Some may also switch because considering to the listeners. A 45 years old woman, for example, may switch into children language when she meets her friends' children. And topic may also be the reason of code switching. When someone is talking about a serious topic, he may use formal form, but when the topic changes into less serious, he may change into informal form. So the code one chooses may indicate how he wishes others to view him. Code switching may also show that he is cooperative. It means he knows that everyone does not have the same background. Code switching is sometimes distinguished from code mixing. Code switching can be changing different language or variety of a language in the form of clauses, sentences, or even longer than that. And it's usually done in a particular setting for a particular purposes of mixing. So code switching is a skill, is a good skill to make people deliver the message more efficiently and more clearly. But for code mixing, the changes is usually in the form of short expressions, phrases, or words, and is done more out of linguistic requirement. Code mixing suggests the speaker is mixing up codes indiscriminately or perhaps because of the incompetencies, because maybe the speaker does not know the term used in that language, so he or she makes the language. So this is not because he or she has the purpose to make the conversation is more clear, but because of lack of his knowledge about the language that he or she is speaking.